this is Steven.
And this is the Post-Peak Chronicles. So, Steven, man, what we got going on today?
We have a great guest today, master trainer extraordinaire, the Gym Chula Vista member, and all-around great guy, Chris Collazo. What's up, Chris?
Doing good. Doing real good.
Welcome. So, Chris, man, what we got going on, man? Tell us about yourself.
Oh, man. Well, I'm a coach and nutritionist here at TG Chula. Where I'd like to think that I've built up a pretty good reputation for, being good at what I do.
Okay.
So, obviously I see right now you're this always booked up, always busy. You're working, sometimes you're at 4 a.m., sometimes you're till 10 p.m. Trainer. But, let's talk about the backstory. You're obviously, everyone sees you, okay, Chris, the super busy, booked up trainer, whether he's boxing, whether he's teaching Muay Thai or taking people through the weights. Let's talk about, obviously, this is Post-Peak Chronicles.
Yes.
So this is what you're doing post, but let's fast forward to your childhood and kind of, how did you grow up?
Well, I grew up in a military family. My father was in the Air Force, and I was actually born on Clark Air Base in the Philippines. And when I was real little, moved to South Carolina. We were stationed out there and then moved back to the Philippines. Went to McGuire Air Force Base in Jersey. And then ended up eventually when my father retired in San Diego, California. And I believe I might have been 13 or 14 at the time.
Okay.
You said you were really quiet and to yourself. It's moving around and growing up in the Philippines, a country not yours and stuff like that. Did you have a lot of friends, or were you always social, or were you just to yourself?
How about this? I guess I was liked, but I wasn't really social. I always felt like, you got to understand, when you grow up in a foreign country like that, and, I'm multiracial. You're not quite Filipino, you're not quite American, you're not quite any of those things. You just kind of never know where you fit in.
All right.
And also, moving around, base to base, school to school, things like that. You always feel like the odd man out and a little, socially awkward.
Always a new kid.
Yeah, always a new kid.
Right.
And then, just not really knowing where to fit in.
Okay. So when you moved to San Diego, how was that?
All bad, man. All bad.
Why is that?
I'm a comic book nerd. I remember I walked into 9th grade with a Ren and Stimpy jacket.
Mm.
I loved Ren and Stimpy growing up.
I loved it. And I don't think there's anything wrong with comic books.
Was not the coolest thing for 9th grade, bro.
Man.
Yeah, I think I was a child though.
I was into comic books before, people read comic books. You
Right.
got to keep in mind I'm, about to be 45 years old. So back then it was not a cool thing to be into, comic books and cartoons and things like that. And we ended up, when we came to San Diego, I ended up moving to like kind of a not so great neighborhood. So lived in Shelltown,
Familiar.
Yeah, lived in the Shelltown area, and went to Sweetwater High School, and kind of, like gang-infested area, and then later on ended up moving to Skyline.
Yeah, I'm real familiar.
I know you're very familiar with Skyline. But it's one of those things like where you don't really fit in anywhere,
Right.
and you're going to get tested.
Right.
I remember going to Sweetwater, I'd fight, just walking to school every day because you're walking past all these different gangs, and no matter where you're at, they're going to be like, hey, where you from?
Everybody's hating
and then try and pick a fight.
Right.
Thing is, I learned very early on, being the misfit, that the only way to stop a bully is a punch in the mouth.
Mm-hmm.
So I grew up boxing. I grew up in, boxing and kickboxing. I fought a lot.
Very skilled.
Yeah. I never wanted to fight. Nobody likes being punched in the face, because it's a fight. You're going to get hit,
Right.
But
So you learned fighting out of a survival mechanism.
Yeah.
And then that's obviously it protected you from getting beat up, but obviously down the line it wasn't.
Yeah.
Didn't help.
It didn't help because, in the area is like you got to belong to a gang.
Mm-hmm.
You have to belong to a gang. So
where you fit in, right?
Yeah, where you fit in or whatever. And, I was looking for identity.
Right.
You got like kids nowadays, they don't know. They've got like the goths, the this, the that, the skaters, the LGBTQs. We didn't have any of that shit. We had, the little cliques, but you had gangs. Mm-hmm. You're either from this gang, you're from that gang. You had to belong somewhere. And it wasn't even just that you had to belong somewhere. You wanted to belong somewhere.
Right. So this is going on outside. What's going on inside the house? How's your home life going?
Home life, I guess, wasn't that great. And my parents were great, man. My parents were great, but you know, they weren't great together.
Right.
You know, so my parents were off and on, and you know, my family and I always, or my brother and I always felt like, you know, the burden of our parents staying together for us.
Right.
You know, my mother used to always say that when she was still alive, like, oh, the reason I'm still with your father is because, you know, I'm waiting for you to be old enough to be on your own.
Wow.
You know, so you can imagine that as a kid, man, that fucks you up.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
It's one thing I always heard. It was better to come from a broken home than to live in one.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's a perfect example because it's sitting with you still.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know? Yeah.
So you got a home life that's broken. You're this little nerdy kid.
Yep.
Where does a little nerdy kid fit in with a gang?
Well, I fight real good. You know, I've always fought real good. And, you know, you get into enough little squabbles in the neighborhood, you get jumped on and, you know, things like that. And, you know, you leave people with black eyes and missing teeth and stuff. Eventually you earn a reputation. So I earned a reputation like, man, that little man can fight, you know.
Don't mess with
like,
Chris.
Yeah, don't fuck with that
Not
dude.
mess with
He can fight.
Yeah.
You know, and I took that as, that was my defense. You know what I mean? I didn't want to get jumped. I didn't want to, you know, go through any of that shit.
Right.
You know, but my defense was, you know, to have an offense. If somebody forces me into a situation, I'm going to fuck them up so bad that everybody else that sees it will never want none of that.
Put down a good demo and you ain't got to worry about nothing.
Yeah. Oh, they'll still test once in a while. They'll bring 2 or 3 homies, but they'll still test. You know?
Right. Okay. So you getting tested, you fighting. Now you don't, you know, you're not getting as tested as much. So how's your life looking now?
Well, got into got into the drugs and stuff like that. It was the freaking 90s. Everybody was on drugs.
Right.
You know, in the 80s, it was crack. You know, in the 70s, it was heroin. In the 90s, it was meth.
Yes.
You know, so I was in the meth generation and stuff, went through all that stuff. You know, thankfully, I was still young enough and smart enough to eventually look at it and be like, man, I don't want this. Right. You know?
So what age did you start, like, experimenting with meth?
Shit, it was early, man. I was, I want to say 14 or 15.
Wow.
Yeah, 14 or 15.
It's crazy because meth has a 93% relapse rate. So many people that do meth once are addicted for 93% of the people that do meth are addicted for life.
Here, I'll tell you this. This is how powerful that drug is. I haven't done drugs in freaking 25 years or whatever the hell it is. To this day, every once in a while, I'll still have a dream about it.
You know, it's funny. I tried it one time because I wanted to see what it would do.
Yeah.
Up to a year later, I craved it. And that alone was enough to terrify me to like, I'm never going to try this again because I craved it every day for a year. And it's like, dude, the hold it has
every day for a year?
A year, one time. And that's why I was like, I see why people relapse. 93% of the people relapse. That's no joke.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a powerful thing. And like I said, I just got to a point where it's like, man, I don't like myself. You know, we always want to think of ourselves as a good person. Right. Everybody does. Nobody sees themselves as an asshole. But in reality, it's the totality of our actions on a day-to-day basis that determine whether or not we're a good person. Right. You know, and there came a point where I was no longer a good person. You know?
So you're fighting meth,
yeah,
gangs. You look at the totality of everything, you're like, man, I'm not a great person here.
No, I wasn't.
And knowing that led to obviously what happened that got you into prison, or is there still more leading up to that?
No, I'd actually straightened shit up before then.
Okay,
that's a messed up thing.
So real quick, then what was the turning point of straightening stuff up before that little fumble?
Oh, the turning point of straightening stuff up was literally I'd probably been awake for like damn near a month. You know, you sleep little cat naps, you get up, you get high, all that stuff. You know, commit crime, do whatever. You know what I mean? I was doing stuff that I'm not proud of, man. And everybody sees me as, you know, the smiley guy, the nice guy. You know, everybody you talk to nowadays will say that, you know, I'm one of the nicest people they know. You know,
I might say that too.
Yeah, you're always got a smile, and you seem super thankful and a lot of gratitude.
That's the thing. Yeah. It's gratitude.
Right.
It's gratitude, brother. Like, I didn't have it before. I was spoiled, man. I was spoiled. You know, just like everybody that's always complaining about how shitty this country is and stuff. They sound like spoiled brats to me, bro. You know, they've got all the opportunity in the world, but all they want to do is complain about things.
So when you say spoiled, I hear meth, gangs, wrong side of town. How's that spoiled?
Spoiled because I had opportunities and I wanted to wallow in my, in my misery instead. That's spoiled, man. Spoiled is somebody that's got every chance, every second chance, every third chance, and squanders it. That's spoiled to me.
It's almost like first world problems, right? We got
it
so well that we make up issues.
Yep. Make our own problems.
Everyone has these amazing opportunities to succeed, but then we're going to complain why we don't succeed. Yeah.
Like I could have easily, locked myself in the library at school and things like that. Buried my nose in the books. Did all of that stuff. Which I did partially. I was a very good student, but it was something in me that wanted to belong so badly that I just had to fit in. And if anybody knows me, anything that I do, I want to be the best at it. And that applied to being, a piece of shit gang member too.
All right. Well, make no excuses for actions as children, but at the same time, you were a kid, and you made a lot of mistakes and made a lot of conscious decisions as a kid. Yeah. But again, the operative word being you as kids. So we're not going to continue to beat ourselves up on what we did as children, because you obviously learned from your mistakes, from your actions before you went to prison, because you said it was a turnaround point.
Yeah, there was a turnaround.
So you turned around. What led you to prison after the turnaround?
It was a messed up thing, man. So there was a girl I was dating. I didn't know she had a boyfriend, or boyfriend or ex-boyfriend, whatever he was a gang member and stuff. By this time, I hadn't hung out in forever. I was working a good job. I'd finished school, and her boyfriend came to where I was at one day, and comes there. Back then they used to wear those Pendletons, the flannels. He comes there with 3 of his homeboys, and they surround me, and he does one of those things where they throw open their jacket to show that they've got a gun. And he was literally the arm's reach away from me. So all I saw was the gun. I saw the people surrounding me, and just swung as hard as I could and tried to take his head off. And as soon as he dropped to the ground, got on top of him, started beating on him, wrestled the gun away from him, started smacking him with the gun. At that point, remember cars used to have those clubs?
Yeah.
Yeah, one of his
the wheel locks.
Yeah, the wheel locks.
Yeah.
One of his buddies ran up and hits me with that club, and then he hits me again, and I'm on top of this guy, and I roll him over like Operation Human Shield,
just like the movies,
and just in the air, one trying to hurt nobody, one trying to.
So you start firing the gun off in the air.
Yeah.
Just to scare him off.
Yeah, just to scare him off. I wasn't trying to hurt anyone or anything. I mean, had I wanted to kill that man, I could have killed him. And to be honest, I was so scared that I might have, That's just scary, man.
Right.
Yeah. You're fighting for your life.
Yeah. But unfortunately, the police don't see it like that. So this guy, when, after I smacked him up and all that stuff, he ends up, having to go to the emergency room, and he calls the cops.
A gang member calling the cops on you.
The cops.
We talked about this on
Yep.
a couple
so
episodes ago.
This piece of shit, he made up a story, said, oh, yeah, me and my homeboys were driving down the street, and some guy runs up to us with a gun, so we get out the car and we start fighting with him, and like, just, come on, man.
So
that doesn't even sound...
man up and take his loss, huh?
You run up on him with a gun, and they jump out the car to fight you.
They jump out the car to fight me. So...
They still get beat up.
And what was I going to do is, it was 4 people's word against my word.
Wow.
And of course, I was a, documented gang member and all that stuff, so they just ran with it, man.
Railroaded you.
Yeah, they railroaded me.
So they railroaded you to the point of how many years?
I had, what was it? I think it was a 16-year sentence, and on that I ended up serving like 12 or 13.
What was the official sentence for?
It was for assault with a firearm, assault with a firearm and like GBI, and first they were trying to get me like attempted murder and all kinds of shit.
That's what I want to make note of. Like,
and they
what
just,
was the charges?
They hang
that
so much.
Exactly.
They hang so much time over your head.
Man.
And so, I get it, man. I've got friends in law enforcement. I've got friends, that work with the district attorney's office. And I get it, man. They've got a job to do.
Mm-hmm.
And the way they look at it, or the way they try and justify it, is like, hey, for every one crime that we get somebody on, they've probably committed 50 others, and they wouldn't be wrong in my case.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
I'm not gonna let them off the hook with that though.
No, but honestly, look, I really believe, look, I wasn't a good person, man. You know, I had done things that you know that weren't good. You know, that I had gotten away with. So the way that I looked at it is this, man. If I had taken ass whooping for something I didn't do in life, you know, it was my time. Now, granted, I was sitting there in the cell crying my eyes out.
So you figured this was just a matter of time, and it finally caught up with me. So here we go.
I figured this is my comeuppance.
Yeah.
You know, this is what I get for, you know, making the conscious choices that I had made in life earlier.
Right.
You know, and I'd never paid for.
You know what's funny? One of the things that we've noticed, the common theme with everyone that's actually succeeded outside of prison, not gone back in, is doing well on the other side, is the self-acceptance and self-responsibility and ownership of what they did. They're not like, well, you know, my upbringing and all these other things, where they could easily justify to why they did what they did. And the world wouldn't even bat an eye, like, yeah, man, you had a terrible upbringing, or how would anyone succeed with those circumstances? But you and, you know, like Adam and Tyrese, they're like, I made a conscious decision to do these things. This was my fault. You're sitting in a cell like, well, you know, I guess this was going to happen eventually.
Now, granted, I was bad.
Yeah.
I didn't think I deserved all that time, you know, because I'd quite honestly never done anything to deserve that kind of time, even if you total shit up, you know. And it just felt like a huge injustice. But at the same time, there came a point where I just, you know, introspectively, I looked at it and said, okay, well, you know, you kind of had this coming. You know, it could have been worse. You know, those guys could have killed me.
Yeah.
You know, they could have easily killed me. I think I had not been, you know, one of those for show type people. Like, look, I've got a gun, be scared. You know, had he not been that guy, you know, I'd have been dead. Yeah. You know, that guy could have just ran up and shot me in the face, and that's the end of the story.
So, you get the time. You go to prison. Where you start off at? What is that looking like?
Salinas Valley, man. Salinas Valley State Prison.
180.
Yeah, I was on the 180. And at the time, Salinas Valley was nothing.
180
nice,
for those who don't understand. There's different levels to prison. Yes. Level 1, 2, 3, 4 being the highest. Of those fours, there's a 270 design and a 180 design. And the 180 is the most maximum secure prison.
There we go. Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, so I was on a level 4 and a 180 yard, and I was on C yard at Salinas Valley, which at the time was considered the most violent, you know, prison yard in California. You know, everybody always hears, you know, Pelican Bay or High Desert or whatever. Salinas Valley was that was the worst at the time, man.
So I know, obviously, from what I've talked to you about, some gnarly stuff you've experienced and witnessed in prison. Because I remember I posted a poll on my Instagram: would you rather spend 5 years in a coma or 5 years in a prison? And you responded, hell no, you can't make me do anything to go back to prison. No. I'll take 5 years in a coma. Easy.
Yeah.
Easy.
And so tell me why.
Because 5 years in prison, you're alone with your thoughts, man. 5 years in prison, you're away from your family. 5 years in prison, you're going through, it was a fucking war zone, man. You know, I remember, like, I was like my first, couple weeks in, saw somebody get stabbed in the neck, and, you know, watching the blood squirt out while he's running around in circles, and they're continuing to chase him and stab him, and the gun tower's shooting down with a Mini 14.
You're like, what did I get myself into?
Yeah.
And how old are you at this point?
I believe I was 23, 24-ish. I was young, man. I was very young.
And it didn't stop there. That's just something you see.
That's normal. I've been 400-man prison riots.
Yeah.
You know, where, you know, because everything in there is like weird, racially segregated kind of gangs. You know, and you know, sometimes if an issue can't be resolved between, you know, two different gangs or two races, then it ends up in war. You know, so, and just picture like a scene from Braveheart, man.
Yeah,
all out, man. That's what
smoke bombs.
People are getting stabbed. People are being stomped to death. People being shot by the gun tower. I remember the guy I was fighting with on the basketball court got shot in the ass cheek. Took his whole ass cheek off. You know, so.
Hey, good thing it was a bad shot. That could have been you.
I know, that could have been me missing an ass cheek right now.
Yeah. So you said earlier, before this slip up happened and you got in a fight, you were already on your way to changing your life, right?
Yeah.
So you're already on your way to changing your life.
Yeah, I was actually, I'd been doing the whole, personal training thing, and
Yeah.
Had gone to school. That's what I went to school for, and it was that was what I wanted to do with my life at that point.
So you're on your way to changing your life. Now you find yourself in prison, racially segregated. You got to choose a side. You're in riots. Yeah. A guy that's already, I know a lot of times like Will and the other guys, when they're in there, it's like, okay, well, this is, I'm accepting this is what I am right now. Until they have that, that light bulb turning on moment in prison. You've already had it pre-prison. Yeah. Now you're in the middle of all this. Is there a conflict for you, or you're just, I got to do what I got to do to survive? What's going on in your mind?
Yeah, you absolutely have to do what you have to do to survive, There's rules and regulations in prison. We're self-governed. Those people, control the gates and the doors and all that stuff, but we're self-governed, and for good reason, because it keeps order, amongst us.
Right.
If it wasn't for the gangs and stuff like that, like everybody hears, oh, that's so terrible, it was segregated, and the gangs and stuff like that. Yeah, it's terrible, but it was a system that happened to work to keep people safe. Because if not, have you seen prisons in other states where it's every man for himself?
Yeah.
And people are getting
even here on the sensitive need
yards,
or PC yards, where it's just a free for all.
Yeah, if you can't fight, or you have nobody to have your back or anything like that, you're going to end up a victim. Yeah. So with this system in place, it was checks and balances. It's like you can't just take whatever you want from somebody because there's going to be repercussions. You cannot disrespect another man because there's going to be repercussions. I swear to God, I've never seen people so polite in my life, man. Because when it's either say excuse me or get stabbed.
You know what I mean? Excuse me.
Yeah, excuse me.
Sir.
Yeah. Everybody's like, I remember we used to write kites to each other, right? Yeah, you remember. A kite is a little note that you pass, to tell somebody something. But the very first thing you always say is, first and foremost, my utmost respects to you and your cellie.
I send my respects.
Yeah. So not just you, but and your cellie, because you don't want the cellie to interpret that as, oh, what, this fool don't.
What about me?
Yeah, what about me? Or so
polite.
And if you've ever read a text and you don't get voice inflection in text or anything like that, and you don't want anything to be misunderstood in there, because a simple misunderstanding can end up in murder.
Yeah. It's funny that we're laughing about it.
I was just thinking that.
Just the irony of it, because you're assuming these guys are so terrible and gangrene, you're going to get murdered, but you're like, first and foremost, here's my respects to you and your cellie.
That's one thing that was different on the level 4 yard than it is on the lower yards. Than the lower yards. It's a lot more respect because we know where it can go.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, to be honest, when I got to the lower yards,
I like the level 4 yards.
Yeah, I like the level 4 yards better because it was
dangerous, but as long as you can respect it,
But you can navigate and mitigate that danger.
Definitely.
On the on the lower levels where it's kind of just wilder and
it's a lot wilder, a lot
stuff
younger.
Like that,
they don't care.
anything can happen.
Anything can happen.
Like I wasn't in that huge riot until I got to a level 3. I believe Folsom was a 3, or might have been a 2 at the time. Right. Like they might have already turned it into a level 2. And I'm telling you right now, that place was like, my time there was, well, we're saying better.
Just a madhouse.
Yeah. Just wasn't as respectful, wasn't, any of that stuff. And, a lot more shit happened because we had more freedom. More freedom to kind of do what we wanted. We saw the yard more. I remember I was in Salinas Valley. Man, I saw the outside maybe like 4 times in a year. Once.
All the lockdowns.
Yeah, all the lockdowns.
Right.
Lockdowns and cell extractions. Cell extractions, man. Yeah, that's
Explain to them what's a cell extraction.
Cell extraction. The police tell you to come out the cell. The COs tell you to come out the cell. You board up, so you board up by putting something on your windows so they can't see into the cell. So if they can't see in the cell, you have the goon squad or other COs. They come in with all their gear on. And they're gonna spray the cell. They're gonna bum rush the door, run into the cell, and it's.
And why are they doing that?
Because they're getting you. They're extracting you from your cell.
So we only had so many ways to protest in there, right? So if there was unfair treatment or something like that,
hunger strikes.
Yeah, you couldn't exactly just dear sir, I don't like the treatment here.
Right,
and,
the warden.
We feel that this is very. No, we couldn't do any of that shit.
Right.
So it's like, okay, if we see what we felt was an injustice towards what our rights were. There was only so many ways to protest. And so to show unity and things like that, oftentimes, it'd end up in a cell extraction where we board up so they're unable to see us, unable to perform their counts and their daily duties. and we're basically like hunger striking at the same time. And they have no choice but to try to extract us. Now we jam up the doors with like chess pieces and stuff like that, so the automatic doors couldn't open. So what they would do is they'd open your, the
tray slot.
Yeah, the tray slot. The tray slot where they stick food in, and they'd stick this battering ram thing in there. It's this long ass pole, and yeah, you've seen pepper spray, right?
Yeah.
Now imagine one that looks like a fucking fire extinguisher.
Just spray it in your
Yeah,
spray the entire cell down.
and it just comes.
Oh,
And you're sitting there, and you try to prepare for it, ahead of time. You're like, you've got your little personal belongings and stuff. You try to put them in place. Yeah, we're trying.
Wet towel. And
none of that shit works.
Not at all.
None of that shit works.
And you ruined your TV, you ruined everything.
Yeah, you're burning. You're burning. You can't. Your lungs. That's why we always tap out.
So let me ask you this: was that everyone in your gang would do that, or just your cell, or all the cells would do it? To
every
protest?
single inmate would have to do it, because if say if
all gangs,
so say if the blacks said that they wanted to cell extract, right, and then like say maybe the Mexicans were on board too, if the Asians or the whites weren't on board, and whatever, it would end up in a war.
So everyone would do it in solidarity.
Yeah, in solidarity. Like, look, this was happening, so
COs are probably like,
they hated that shit.
Crap.
The hunger strikes actually worked. They would work. A lot of the things that changed while I was in prison in 2012, that's how they let everybody out the shoe. They used to have indeterminate shoes.
Yep.
And people would be in a shoe, segregated housing unit for 20 years. And that's 23-hour lockdown in a cell by yourself. And so you had people who were, indeterminate shoes, meaning that they don't know when they're letting you out. And the hunger strikes are what allowed people to come, because people were dying during these were real hunger strikes where people were not eating for weeks and a month at a time, and
but
really
it was to protest, because these people were in the shoe, which is basically 24-hour day isolation,
solitary confinement.
Yeah.
Solitary confinement for an indefinite time.
Yeah.
Can't imagine.
No phone calls. No anything.
Nothing.
You go to the yard. They used to have group yards.
Yeah.
Now it's
they just
you
put a
and
cage.
maybe your cellie in a human kennel.
Yeah, human kennel. Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
And that's all changed because of
they still have the
not
shoe.
indefinite.
It's just not indefinite.
Yeah, not the indeterminate shoes. To
No
where it's like, we can keep you in here for as long as we
3
want.
3 years.
And that could be even. It was they were basing it on just bullshit.
They would do it for for nothing.
Arbitrary reasons.
Yeah, if they didn't like somebody, or like somebody gave them information, this person is a shot caller for whatever, even if they weren't.
Somebody drop a kite.
Yeah, even if they weren't, they had a point system.
Yeah.
So if you had so many points, you get validated.
Yeah.
It could be based on a snitch or whatever, and they just be like, okay, you have enough points, going to the shoe.
Going to the shoe.
Okay, well, so let's get back on track real quick.
Yes, sir.
You did your 12 years first term?
Yeah.
12 years. How old are you when you get out? Does that make you 35?
I think was I 35? I was actually 38. So
38.
Yeah, I was 38 when I got out.
So what are we doing right now? After we get out, do you pick up where you left off? Well, you were telling me you got out. You had nothing. So tell me about when you got out. What happened?
They give you $200, man. They give you $200. That's called your gate money. That's called your gate money.
Yeah.
And then they just send you on your way, man.
Bye. Good luck.
And imagine, getting out after all that time and not having anything. But thankfully, when I was in, I was continuing to go to school. I was making, like, when other people were asking for money for like Top Ramen and shit, I was asking for money for textbooks. And I studied my craft. While I was in, I was continuing to coach. I was helping guys get in shape. I was a boxing coach. Yeah, on the yard. I was helping people with their nutrition as best as I could with what we had available. And that was like the biggest laboratory that a guy could ever have. So for a legit exercise physiology geek like me, it was like the best thing on the planet, man. But anyways, so I got out and I was like, okay, well, what the hell am I going to do with this? I didn't have enough to go anywhere. Thankfully, I had a friend who gave me a place to stay. Gave me a place to crash, because I got out. I was initially homeless, man.
$200. That's all you got.
Yeah, $200. You get a hotel. You get a taxi. You're broke.
Yeah.
You're broke. Yeah, you have no choice, man. You go into the EDD or whatever, trying to get food stamps or any of that crap. So I fell back on, I mean, I did everything. I even took, backyard fights and shit just to, make money to go sleep, to go have a place to sleep and a fucking meal, man. And I'd go into a 99-cent store. I'm like, okay, what can I afford? All right, if I get a jug of Tampico, I don't know if y'all know what Tampico is, but it's like this,
orange juice.
It's like the fake ass orange juice, man. Can't even call it orange juice. Orange drink.
Orange drink.
That's that orange drink. I get that and a pack of duplex cookies because I knew it was the most calories I could get, to basically keep me alive, So I'd do that. I'd take fights. I'd, do whatever the hell I could. I didn't want to be too big of a burden on my family. It's not like my family wasn't there for me.
Right.
But I didn't want to be a huge burden, and I didn't want to let them know all the shit that was going on with me, because, at this point I'm a grown-ass man, and I didn't want to depend, too much on them, so I, did what I could. I was like, okay, well, if I'm going to get a job anywhere, they're going to want, I had like old-ass certs from way back, I was like, okay, I have to renew my certifications and stuff like that, so I actually went to the National Personal Training Institute where, I self-paid my tuition, by doing whatever the hell I could, And
okay, so man, obviously it was rough getting out of prison. $200, just eating duplex cookies,
duplex cookies
and orange drink, to survive. But so you renewed your certifications.
Yeah.
What's going on? You get a job, you start training.
I went to NPTI,
okay,
which is mostly like former military. It's those guys that are like, what the hell do I do?
Yeah, they all got the GI Bill.
What do I do with my GI Bill, man? I like to work out. Let me go to this personal training school. So it's a bunch of people that just didn't give a shit,
They don't want to go to college, but they want to still get the GI money. So I'm going to do NPTI.
So I appreciated it more, and I really did. I appreciated it more because I
pay your way through.
Exactly. But thing was, I didn't get to finish. I didn't get to finish because I was rearrested.
So, how long were you out?
6 months.
Between your 6 months. Okay.
6 months, bro.
Tell us what happened.
6 months, I had a violation or whatever. They'll violate you on parole. They will violate you for farting wrong. It's like if that shit was the wrong key, your ass is going back in. So I believe it was like a change of address or whatever the hell it was initially. And when I got in, you get tested. You get tested all the time in there. And
so you violated parole. How long did they sentence you to for the parole violation?
I think it was supposed to be like a year or something.
A bullet.
Or whatever.
Yeah,
it was supposed to be something short.
Yeah.
But I went in, somebody who I tried to talk out of fighting with me, I basically damn near begged, hey man, like I don't want to fight. I just want to go home, this and that. And he kept pushing it, and then took a swing at me, so I made a bloody mess out of him. I touched every, corner of that cell with his ass, and I ended up catching more time. So I ended up doing 2.5 years. So fast forward to 2018, I get out, same situation. I'm in the same situation.
$200.
Yep. Actually less because this time they charged me for sweats.
Oh, wow.
Because
Here's your 200.
couldn't go home naked.
We need
man.
that back.
Yeah, actually less. So I was in the same situation and, basically went back to the same thing. Said, okay, well let me fight. I'd take sparring gigs once in a while, or, I'd get into these fights by, be at a fighting gym and, just kind of try to give somebody pointers until the point where, like, basically, like pool sharks do.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like pretend they can't play. Yeah. So I would do that at these fighting gyms and, try to give somebody pointers or whatever. And they'd tell me, basically
shut up and get in the ring.
Yeah, shut the fuck up or whatever. I'm like, hey, well, check it out. There's a backyard gig going on. You know what I'm saying? And I got $1,000 says I'll whoop you. And good thing I won because I didn't have $1,000. I didn't have $1,000. But so that was basically how I continued. Thankfully, also NPTI, they saved my tuition.
Wow.
What I had already paid in.
That's great.
And I was paying little by little. I think they saved like I think I was like $5,000 in or something, and they saved it for me. And the lady, her name's Kathy Schoen. She's a freaking saint, man. She welcomed me back in. Granted, I had to start from the beginning again, but that shit was like the alphabet to me. It was like simple to me.
How long does the MPTI take?
I believe it was 10 months.
Oh, okay.
I believe it was 10 months. And then I did like some CEUs and stuff.
Yeah, continuing education credits.
Yeah, I did some CEUs just to have them under my belt, because I figured, if a gym's going to take me, I've got a criminal record. I've got very little work history at this point, because all my work was, and don't get me wrong, while I was in prison, I was working my ass off.
Right.
I was working in prison. I was going to school in prison, basically full time and still trying to navigate, the violent ass situation that I'm in.
Right.
But, so I get out, I start over from scratch and, get those certifications done. And then I take a job with Crunch, where I started as a, just regular old personal trainer, not a single client, anything like that. I guess one of the trainers had fucked up real bad, and, they came running over to the school next door, and they're like, hey, do you have any graduates that are, and I was like a top student there.
Right.
I was known for being, the fitness nerd. So they, they recommended me, and I let them know right off the bat. I'm like, hey, the guy's name was Alan. I said, hey, Alan, just letting you know right now, because I don't want it to come up later, and then I feel heartbroken when I don't get this job. But I said, I've got a criminal record. I'm an ex-convict. I'm just trying to get everything right, and I'm letting you know right now that I won't let you down. Like I'm telling you, no matter what I do not fail. I don't, and I promise you I'll work harder than anybody else if you provide me this opportunity, and he did.
And that's just to get an entry-level personal training position, right?
Yeah, but to me that was I would have taken entry level.
Yeah,
that was your
foot in the door, though.
Yeah, I'd have been janitor. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, you're in charge of cleaning the showers with your tongue. I'd have took that shit, man.
Just give me a job.
Just give me a job, man. Let me finish parole. Let me get off this paperwork. Let me have everything that I've dreamed of. Right. And for me, this was my route.
So, you are a fighter in the literal and figurative, sense. I mean, you fought to get out of prison. You fought, and then you finally get this opportunity. And we know who you are today. Yeah. You are that guy. Personal trainer extraordinaire. But how did you get there? We know that you got this opportunity, but how did it blow up to the point where you are now?
Okay, so when you're with these commercial gyms, these big box gyms, I don't give a shit if it's 24, LA Fitness, Crunch, whatever. They're very salesy. Mm-hmm. Right. At 24, they always say, oh, the third no's the real no. When you're trying to, no, what are you, a rapist? Like, like, dude, no means no, man. You know what I mean? Like, if somebody wants to train, you shouldn't have to force them into it. And I just, and I was good. I was good at what I did, but I never had to sell. And they never understood that. I was good at what I did, so it sold. I would grab people off the floor, throw them through a workout. Like my coworkers would tell on me for training people for free. But I said, hey, stupid, this is free advertising.
Prospecting right here.
Yeah, and not to mention, if I'm training these people for free, the more people that see you training, they're going to inquire about you. Hey, man, I've seen how you train so-and-so, and man, they're looking good, or whatever, and they'll hit you up. Like, man, I love the way you are with your clients. I can tell that you actually give a shit. And that's what set me apart from the other trainers, for the most part, was that I actually gave a shit about people. No matter what, because I come from nothing, man.
All right.
I come from nothing. And I came from the lowest point in my life. It wasn't about the money to me, because I was happy with anything. I was happy to have a roof over my head, to not be eating no damn duplex cookies no more.
And that orange drink.
And that orange drink. And I just, so it wasn't about the money for me.
All right.
And, granted, if I put money a little more of a priority, I'd be better off in life, but I wouldn't be able to live with myself, bro.
Right.
Wow. Because when it comes down to it, this is my way of making amends in life. This is my way of making difference. When I'm done with this life, I want people to look back and say, man, Chris cared about people. He changed people's lives. He helped to change my life. That's what I want.
Now, you worked your way up from personal trainer to eventually the GM of Crunch,
yeah,
correct?
Yeah.
And so how did that transition help? And then how did you find yourself at our gym?
Oh, here's what I have to say. And I tell everybody to listen. Okay, like I hated, the whole GM thing. I sucked at it. Like I was GM in title, man. I was the general manager in charge of fucking smiling and waving, man. I wasn't good at it. I was a great fitness manager. I was a great trainer, whatever. But as a general manager, But when the pandemic happened, I hate that term. When all that stuff happened and the shutdowns.
2020 happened.
Yeah, 2020 happened. I found myself unemployed. I found myself wondering, like, shit, did I pick the wrong industry? Like, I don't know what to do now. If this is going to be the new normal and we're just going to be shutting down for months at a time and having to survive off of, whatever, I couldn't do it. And then I finally found out and I was like, oh, crap, TG's bucking the system, and TG Chula, I came over here and, it was like a speakeasy almost,
The beginning days.
Yeah, the side entrance and all that stuff. But I came over here and then, like, TG honestly saved my damn life, man. TG is what made me the trainer that I am today. I can't say enough how freaking great. There's nothing like this anywhere, bro. There's nothing like this. Everywhere else is just so worried about what they can get out of people, what they can get out of their trainers, what they could get. When TG makes money, they put it in freaking equipment, man. Trying to make it a better experience for the members. When other gyms are taking 50% or more of what their trainers are making, TG gives us a place to work without charging us rent. And trainers, you can either make a little bit of money or a lot of money, but if you're paying, $1,000 to $1,500 a month to rent a spot at some, one of these bougie ass gyms, right, then you're not going to be able to make it in San Diego. It's expensive here, man.
Unless you're charging groups of 6 people at a time.
And then you start getting just shit quality training.
Cookie cutter workouts. Booty band classes.
Yeah. Or you're just having to charge a ridiculous amount of money.
Yeah.
So the reason I'm able to work is as cheap as I do is because I don't have the overhead. And I'm not pricing myself out of the range of people that actually need me. The reason I'm successful is because I take on clients that nobody else will take on. The single mom that approaches me for training and I see that she's got a bunch of kids. I'm like, okay, well, tell you what, man, like my regular rates are, $60 a session, which is, on the low side for, especially for my credentials, but I'll tell you what, $20, $20. I'll help you with your nutrition. I'll get you in shape. I'll get you on your way. I've had clients, they lose their jobs. I continue to train them. I got people that I take on for free. But no matter what, I still don't charge people more than like $60-$65 a session when I could easily charge $100 or $120.
Definitely. Yeah, you were telling me you don't lock people in on packages.
Yeah, I don't. The reason is this. Like, when people train with me, I want them to train with me because they enjoy it, they get results, and that's it. Not out of some weird financial obligation. And I don't ever want to be a burden to anyone. I want to be a help to people. So being a burden to somebody would be like, okay, well, you're going to train with me. All right, it's going to be $5,000. Oh my God. I just took on an online client. She contacted me and she said that, I guess she had approached another coach. Long story short, this piece of shit told her $5,800 for like 4 months or something ridiculous. And, it's just, you already know it's going to be, that cookie cutter program right, that he gives to every other client. He's probably got 1,000 clients. The guy shows off his trips to this place and his fancy, flashy. Dude, my shorts are from Walmart. I've had this shirt for like 4 years now. You know what I mean? My shoes are from Costco. And I drive a Honda Civic.
Don't knock the Honda Civics.
Oh, I love that Honda Civic. I traded my BMW for that.
There you go.
But you know what I mean? It's not about any of that.
Right.
I could easily scale my business. And be doing $250,000 a year. Easy.
Because you have the demand, from what I see.
Yeah, I do have the demand. But at the same time, why am I going to do that to people? I'm one person, and I wouldn't be able to live with myself knowing that I'm sitting there giving everybody the same shit. Cookie cutter. Well, it'll work good enough. That's how people, kind of justify it. But that's not who I am, man. I want to be the person that helps people and makes a change in their life, and just wasn't a burden while doing it.
Definitely. I mean, Chris, man, you are an amazing man, an amazing trainer. I mean, that's obvious. These are just statement of facts. You truly are, and everything you've been through. But I mean, you more than that. You're more than just the great trainer. You're a husband, you're a father. You want to speak to that, to the life that you have, everything that you've accomplished. Like you said, you wanted to live the amazing life after prison, and that's a part of it.
Yeah.
All of that is a part of it. And so, I just want to give you an opportunity if you want to, shout out, show any love to any of your family that you want to,
Well, to my family, I'd just like to say thank you for sticking by me when I was at my worst. And to my clients, same thing. Like as much as they tell me that I changed their life, they changed my life. And that's real, Everybody wants to talk about I'm self-made. There's no fucking such thing as self-made.
Not at all.
No such thing.
There's no such thing, man. Everybody as appreciative my clients are, whenever I fill my gas tank and I remember that one of my clients helped me fill that gas tank, or I buy groceries, or I'm able to get something from my kids, I'm eternally appreciative.
Wow.
And I feel the same way towards TG. That's why I have such loyalty to this place. I've had, people try to drag me to other gyms and stuff like that. And, like, oh, we could make your business like this and all that stuff. I've got such loyalty to TG Chula, man, that like there's no replacing that in just the community here, man.
Yeah, and you're part of our community. You help set that environment. You help set the tone, the vibe, and it's just like, don't take this the wrong way. I'm glad to have you back.
I know.
You know what I mean? Because it's just
I appreciate it.
Your energy in the gym. You'll be the guy that comes in at 6 a.m. when everyone's tired. You're like, hey, good morning. I'm like, this guy's always
The
freaking
smile
happy.
never
the
fades from his
energy's
face.
there from 4 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Man,
So
always.
I love having you. One of the things I want to speak to is we talked about you get out of prison with $200, right? Yeah. Did you get out of prison with $200?
I'm currently still in the MCRP program, so my
that's right.
200 is waiting for me.
It's
waiting for me.
I got it on hold for me.
Nothing's 220 now.
No, it's still two. Still two. Yeah.
But one of the things I've noticed is, the recidivism rate in the United States is 75%, which means 75% of men that get out of prison go back in within the first year. My thing is, if they don't have an MCRP, you give a guy $200 and say, see you later. What are you expecting?
And then you have to pay for your bus ticket.
Yeah.
So you're paying for your bus ticket back to the city that you're supposed to go.
And if all you know is the neighborhood you're from and dealing drugs is the quickest way to 4X that $200, 10X that $200, what are they expecting, right? I mean, you guys both, you're completely self-aware that you're the problem, but I mean, when you get set up with $200, not everyone's going to be taking backyard fights, you know what I mean, to make money. And if you can't, if you're not a great fighter, if you don't fall in a great situation like you, the MCRP, and then connected to us, what do guys do with $200? What are you expecting? And that's one of the things that I've always wanted to. I know Will talked about it. You've talked about it. Like, just we got to reform. We got to do better with these guys because the whole point is to change the system. And we got to just do better. I mean, that's all I can say. I mean, I don't know the idea, but $200 and see you later and a pat on the ass is not the way to do it.
It's a hard thing. Well, I will say this in the defense of California, the California prison system is I've seen it reformed by leaps and bounds, man. The education opportunities that are presented in there, and a lot of times just they try to do everything that they can. It wasn't always that way, but they're getting better.
I would say it's the correct term for CDC is CDCR.
Yeah.
California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. And even in my 16 years in prison, and I just got out, from when I first went to now, they are focusing more on that rehabilitation. Because when I first went to prison, like for the first 12 years, I never went to a self-help group.
Yeah, they didn't have them.
Didn't go to any of those. Never
didn't have school available.
Didn't go to any school. But towards 2016, I was in school, self-help groups, everything. They offered a lot more. So I saw the change. There was a leaps and bounds.
So we're doing better.
And there's more to be done. And it's definitely something that I want to point out that you said earlier. And I know you said you have people, friends that work for the system. And so I'm not here to bash the system as far as the DA's office. But I will say 90% of all cases plead out. And the reason why they plead out is because
they hang so much time
over your head that they hope that you take a lesser charge. So even if in a case like as his, where we clearly see that he didn't, let's say you should have should have did something.
Yeah, I didn't do that shit.
Of course I'm going to take 12 years if you're hanging 90 years to life over my head.
Yeah.
12 sounds like a walk in the park.
Because it sounds like hope.
It sounds like hope. So that's definitely something that...
And then it looks good on their record. Well, I just tagged him for 12 years.
I got a conviction.
The judge looks good,
that's definitely something that should hopefully change in the future.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And then the last thing I wanted to ask is, You said nothing's gonna make you go back to prison, right?
Nothing.
You're kind of a firecracker, Chris. You get fired up, you know.
I'll tell you.
So my question is there anything that's going to tip you into that fighting range or tip you back to violence, or are you pretty cooler heads prevail when something gets you fired up?
Yeah, cooler heads prevail. I mean, I think the last time I had actually put hands on somebody, he was somebody harassing a woman on the street. You know, and I think that's the last time. You know, but other than that, nothing.
Just making sure, because I know.
Yeah.
You've had that change, so I just want to make sure that there's nothing that's going to tip you
No,
back.
there's nothing.
We're trying to keep you here. We're trying to keep you on this side.
Look, I wouldn't be any good to anybody in there. You know, I'd like to say that I did some good while I was in there. You know, participated in charity things. I was with kind of like that, almost like the Scared Straight program, but the youth diversion program. You know, helping keep kids out of gangs and things. You know, so but my place is out here trying to help people, man. You know, hopefully someday I'll be able to do well enough to eventually figure things out and retire, but for now, this is exactly where I need to be, man.
Well, Chris, it was a pleasure to have you here.
I appreciate it.
We appreciate it. Real quick, if people want to reach out to you for personal training, for anything like that, go on, shout out.
All right, you guys can catch me over here at TG Chula Vista, obviously. What's my Instagram? Chris Collazo Fitness Nerd. That's ChrisCollazo Fitness Nerd.
Man, you heard it here first.
Do you got an email?
Oh, email.
Yes. It's Christopher Collazo 619@gmail.
All right. Well, that was another episode. I'm Will.
This is Steven.
And this is the Post P Chronicles.